Imagine waking up tomorrow and finding out that a company you invested in that was supposedly worth $32 billion is now completely worthless. Poof. Gone. But here's the kicker: what if, 3 years later, the guy who lost it all looked back and said, "Actually, I would have been richer than Elon Musk if the lawyers hadn't stopped me." That is not a hypothetical. That is exactly what Sam Bankman-Fried is arguing from his prison cell right now, in February 2026. And the number he's throwing around? A cool 150 billion. Stick around, because we are breaking down how the king of crypto went from the cover of magazines to serving a 25-year sentence, and why he thinks he's actually the victim here. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you were anywhere near the internet back in November 2022, you couldn't escape the chaos. FTX, at the time the second largest crypto exchange in the world, imploded in less than a week. We're talking about a company valued at $32 billion, backed by some of the biggest names in finance: Sequoia, SoftBank, the Ontario Teachers' Pension Plan gone. The founder, Sam Bankman-Fried, or SBF, saw his personal net worth plummet from a peak of $26.5 billion to basically zero in just 72 hours. It was, as Bloomberg called it, one of history's greatest ever destructions of wealth. But here's the twist that makes this story wilder than any Netflix drama. Fast forward to today, February 2026. SBF is sitting in a federal prison in California. He's lost his appeal, he's broke, and he owes the government $11 billion. Yet, he just filed a motion demanding a brand new trial. And his main argument? That FTX was actually solvent the whole time, and if the bankruptcy lawyers hadn't taken over, his portfolio would be worth over $150 billion today. We're going to unpack the 6 key reasons this collapse happened, why the what-if game SBF is playing is infuriating his victims, and where things stand right now. Let's get into it. To understand the fall, you have to understand the fatal flaw built into the foundation. SBF founded two main companies, FTX, the exchange, and Alameda Research, a crypto trading firm. In a normal financial world, those two entities would be kept completely separate to avoid conflicts of interest. Not here. Alameda was given a secret, unfair advantage. It had a line of credit on FTX that allowed it to borrow customer funds with virtually no collateral. But the real bomb was the collateral they did use, a token called FTT. This was a coin that FTX itself created. Think about that. Alameda was borrowing billions of dollars backed by a currency that SBF could literally print out of thin air. By November 2022, Alameda's balance sheet was propped up by billions in FTT, an asset with no real value outside the FTX ecosystem. It was like using monopoly money as collateral for a mortgage on a Manhattan skyscraper. So, you've got this house of cards. What happens when the wind blows? On November 2nd, 2022, a crypto news outlet called CoinDesk published a leaked copy of Alameda's balance sheet. It exposed just how heavily they were leaning on those magical FTT tokens. The crypto community started getting nervous. But the real panic button was pushed by SBF's biggest rival, Changpeng Zhao, or CZ, the CEO of Binance. On November 6th, CZ tweeted that Binance was going to liquidate its entire holdings of FTT over $500 million worth. He cited recent revelations that have come to light. That tweet was the equivalent of yelling fire in a crowded theater. Within 48 hours, FTX customers tried to withdraw over $6 billion. The exchange simply didn't have the money. It was a classic bank run, but in crypto. We are just scratching the surface. Up next, we'll look at how SBF spent your money before he lost it, and why a bet on artificial intelligence is at the center of his new legal strategies, so keep watching. When the bankruptcy team, led by a guy named John J. Ray III, the same man who cleaned up Enron, dug into the books, they found a mess. Ray famously testified to Congress that he had never, in his career, seen such a complete failure of corporate controls. The forensic accountants discovered that at least $8 billion in customer deposits had simply vanished. Where did it go? It was funneled directly to Alameda Research to cover their bad trades, risky bets, and loans. But it wasn't just trading losses. The money was also used to buy lavish real estate in the Bahamas, including a penthouse at the Albany resort worth tens of millions. And, of course, millions were poured into political donations and celebrity endorsements to make FTX look legitimate. They were spending customer cash as if it was their personal piggy bank. And this brings us to the main event of February 2026. From his prison cell at FCI Terminal Island, SBF is now pushing a fascinating and frankly infuriating narrative. He calls it his alternate universe argument. He points to a few key investments FTX made before it collapsed. Specifically, a $500 million investment in an AI company called Anthropic, the guys behind the Claude AI model. When FTX went bankrupt, the estate sold that stake for about $1.3 billion to pay back customers. Sounds smart, right? Well, since then, Anthropic's valuation has exploded to nearly $400 billion. SBF calculates that if the bankruptcy lawyers hadn't sold it, that stake alone would now be worth around $30 billion. He has done the math on the whole portfolio, including his early bets on Solana and Robinhood, and claims the total value today would be over $150 billion. He's arguing to the court that the company was never truly insolvent. It just had a liquidity crisis that the lawyers made worse. Basically, he's saying, if you had just let me keep running it, everyone would be rich. Now, on the surface, this sounds like a massive oops by the bankruptcy team. But there's a huge problem with SBF's math, and legal experts and creditors are calling it out. First, fraud is fraud. Even if the company is solvent today, SBF still stole money yesterday. The conviction was based on the Act of taking customer deposits without permission. Second, his alternate universe conveniently ignores that the only reason Anthropic and crypto prices recovered is because the market moved past the FTX crash. If FTX had stayed in business, saddled with debt and under criminal investigation, it's very unlikely the assets would have performed the same way. And third, for the customers getting paid back now, the recovery isn't what it seems. While the estate says they are paying back 118% of claims, That's based on crypto prices from November 2022. So if you had one Bitcoin worth $17,000 then, you get about $20,000 now. Sounds okay, right? But Bitcoin is trading at over $100,000 today. They lost out on the real gains. So SBF talking about billions and hypothetical profits feels like salt in the wound. So, where does this leave us? SBF filed this motion for a new trial on February 10th, 2026, representing himself a pro se, as they call it in court, with a little help from his mom, who's a law professor. He's claiming that new witnesses, like former FTX exec Ryan Salem, would prove the government's case was flawed. He's also asked for the original judge, Lewis Kaplan, to step aside, claiming bias. Meanwhile, the FTX bankruptcy estate is moving forward. They've already paid out over $7 billion to creditors, and have another distribution round scheduled for March 31st, 2026. The legal experts are pretty unanimous. This new trial motion is a long shot. It's unlikely to succeed, but it is keeping SBF in the headlines and letting him play the victim card from behind bars. So, what's the takeaway from this insane saga? Sam Bankman-Fried didn't lose $30 billion because he made a bad bet. He lost it because he built a system designed to take money that wasn't his. His latest attempt to rewrite history is just that, a rewrite. It ignores the core fact that he was gambling with customer funds, and when the music stopped, there were no chairs left. As we watch this next court date on March 11th approach, one thing is clear: even from a prison cell, SBF is still trying to sell a story. But I want to know what you think. Is Sam Bankman-Fried making a valid point about those lost AI billions? Or is this just a desperate attempt to avoid responsibility? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with this wild story and all the latest in the world of money and tech, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.